All right, we're going to kick this show off. You guys ready? We have some pretty cool AI updates for PRI. Really excited to be here, and we're going to talk to you about how to drive momentum with AI. We're going to be talking specifically about how racing brands can adopt AI and how I strongly encourage you start looking into this, because I think that it's basically like moving from hand tools to power tools. Things are going to speed up a lot, and I encourage you to adopt these power tools and understand how they work so that you don't get left behind, all right? So what I'm going to do first is introduce my friend Chuck Tate and let him tell you a little bit about himself, and we're going to know who you're talking to, and then we're going to get this show going, okay? Chuck, you're up.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. Again, I'm the founder. My name is Chuck Tate. I'm the founder of Digital Momentum, and that was formerly known as Racer Sites, which used to be a traditional website design and development company. Over the years, we migrated to Digital Momentum, which allowed us to really expand how motorsport teams did marketing. So you can see on here, if you look down the page, my favorite job in the world is being a dad, and that gets better and better for those of you that have kids. When they start to roll off the payroll, that really makes being a parent exciting. So I do have that happening, but I bring up my kids because my third kid is really Digital Momentum. So I love motorsports. So going back, is there anybody here? I started going to a racetrack outside of Chicago when I was about 3 years old. Santa Fe Speedway. Anybody? Yes, of course you. Yeah, all right. What's your name? Chris. What was your favorite? Who was your favorite driver at Santa Fe?
When I went, I was a kid, we saw the Outlaws, so it was Steve Kinzer.
Got it. Great. How about you?
So we went for sprint cars because we were racing with my family.
All right. Anybody for late models? No? All right. Anyway, that's where I developed my love for racing. And so honestly, from there, I was able to build a business in motorsport after college. And so I fell in love with racing, and being able to build a business in this sport has just been fantastic. I love it. In my personal time, I like to go-kart race. Kevin and I will do some mountain biking together and skiing. But we've had a great time working with some great brands over the years. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Penske Racing, Shocks, and so there's been a lot that we have learned that I hope that we can kind of share with you guys today. So Kevin, can you give a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So basically motorsports fan and more at that amateur level personally, and what I really like the business of is driving business. Like, that's my sport. So I work a lot in SaaS and tech, and really jumped into AI, and like I saw Chuck. I was like, who put HubSpot on a NASCAR? And that's how I came to understand who Chuck Tate was. And we started working on some higher tier projects together, which has been pretty great. And then the main thing I like to do is just drive business, and I'm a student of how business works. So mostly in the SaaS and tech space, but I'm looking to bring everything we've been doing there over to the motorsport space, working with Chuck. So that's kind of the deal. And what I want to do is kind of, let's just get this thing going. I need to give you a couple of disclaimers of how it's going to go. First, I talk fast. Good luck with that. I don't have anything. I don't have another lever. It's all I got. All right. And then the second thing is it's going to be a little bit of a fire hose. I'm going to kind of dump into you what is really actually working in AI. You're going to have to figure out the pieces that you can pull and apply to your business. And then we're going to come in a little under, partly because of how fast I talk.
Well, I hope. We both talk a lot, so I will try and talk less than normal. Yeah. Otherwise, you guys will never get out of here. We'll be having dinner together.
So we're going to come in under, and then that way you can come up at the end, and we'll make sure that you walk out of here with the nuggets you can apply to your individual business, okay? That way, make sure it's a really good session. In order to pay off on this, we need to show you what's happening in racing, then what's happening in marketing, and then what's happening in AI and how you can apply it to that. And then the other thing we're going to make sure we do, because we want it to be super tangible, who wants to just hear somebody talk fast for an hour, the deal is we're going to actually set up some demos, and we're going to launch those off so that if you want to, you can actually see how AI is doing some research on your company, your competitors, your market. We'll walk you through that so you get some tangible insights. Like there's nothing better than, like you want to show somebody racing, like put them in a car, take them around a lap, let them see what it looks like, right? So like that's what we're going to try to do with AI at the end here. All right, so with that, the other deal is that I'd like to do a deal with the audience every time I speak. So I'm going to try to give maximum enthusiasm, not go too fast. But if we give a good session here at PRI, I'm going to ask you to give us some reciprocal energy during the talk. Maybe give us a high five at the end, fist bump, something. Let us know that we did a good job. And that's pretty much it. Chuck, what's happening in racing?
Yeah, so the conversation that I often have with my clients is that racing brands understand advertising, but they don't necessarily understand marketing. And so advertising is when you're putting logos on cars, when you're putting an ad in a magazine, maybe you're putting your brand on a billboard, even if you have website banners. We consider those things to be advertising. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these tactics haven't worked over the years, but it's not about what your customer needs. And what your customer needs comes from marketing. So Kevin, I'm going to ask you to kind of share your definition of marketing.
Yeah, so just straight advertising might get you seen, but that alone will probably not get you sales, right? So like the deal is it's a great way to spend money, right? Who wins? Google, and the deal is like marketing effectively is just like showing your showing that you're thinking about your customer, showing them that you understand their problem, your solution, your product, your business solves that problem, and it shows you how you do that in a differentiated way. Why would I pick your shock? Why would I pick your frame? Why would I pick your harness? Why would I pick your wheels? And you're showing what that's going to do for that target buyer that achieves their goals, and it also shows like the literal steps from how you research it to how you buy it to how you configure it and tune it and basically be successful. And in the racing space in particular, I think there's sometimes this concept that if I just put my product online, here's the part number, here's the price, here's a basic description, that's everything, doesn't help them know that it's the right thing for them. And there's a huge opportunity to do that, and there's a huge opportunity to do that way faster with AI. So we're going to go through that today. The other thing is that marketing is not done until it's profitable. So like we got to be figuring out where do people get stuck, and how do we remove that friction so we actually get a lot more sales from all of our energy we're putting into it. Now, Chuck, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about well, I'll just do this one, which is obviously these are all made with AI, super fun. But the deal is that
I asked Lewis to make these.
Yeah, well, Lewis came in for us. It was really nice. Yeah, but yeah. So the deal is that we want to make sure that the marketing makes money, and then AI is the new money multiplier. Because frankly, once we train it properly, it's able to do so much more for us, so much faster. Like I said, it's like moving from a hammer to a nail gun, right? Like we're able to just multiply the rate at which we can put out effective campaigns. So this is going to help drive more first-time buyers, more repeat buyers, gain market share, and finally set a revenue goal that you can actually work towards hitting. Does that make sense? All right, cool. So Chuck, how are we doing in the marketing side of the business? What's the backdrop there?
Yeah, like after working in this space for more than 25 years, I've heard reasons from brands that they're like, I'm not doing marketing because, and it's often hard. It's often takes a long time. Brands aren't necessarily sure exactly what they should be doing when it comes to marketing, and then they'll tell me, they're like, look, it's expensive and it might not generate the return on investment that they were expecting. And in my experience, all of these things can be true. So, but it doesn't mean that it's not valuable and it's not necessary. And so the good news is with the advent of AI, what this is going to do, it's changing the question. So the question becomes, does marketing matter, right? And so there's a lot of broken promises. I put some statistics up here that I hear. I'll let you take a picture of that. Tell me when you're done. Okay. So going to the question, does marketing matter? Yes. Marketing does matter, and I think the question you're probably going to want to ask yourself, there's probably two. It's how can you do marketing better for your business? And the second question is, if AI does help us achieve these results in a shorter time for lesser money, is now the right time to start using AI to differentiate your brand from your competitors? And so the answer that I hope you come up with is yes. And AI is going to matter for your business. And winning in this digital marketing game is going to mean starting AI now. And AI is what I would call an efficiency lever, right? So don't wait for your competitors to jump on AI and start learning how to grow their business. So Kevin, what I would love you to tell us is how do you define AI as an efficiency lever? And for all of you sitting here, I have a hunch that Kevin's going to go deep. He's going to be technical. I'll try and talk less. But it's probably not going to be just using ChatGPT or Claude or some of the tools that maybe you're playing around with. So Kevin, take it.
Yeah, sure. So here's the deal. What we're really not talking about, just so you can understand, we're not talking about, the owner of the business or the marketers or ops people in the business sitting around and just using ChatGPT all day. I think that's a very junior level approach to using AI. I'm going to try very hard in our session to talk you out of it. And then the deal is that what I'm really talking about is, how you spend a lot of time engineering how your product is going to work and how that is how that's going to serve your customer. Well, marketing is really about how you're going to create the customer in the first place. Like how once you have that product, you bring it to market, and you get it seen, and you get it sold. And AI is going to help us automate that by doing some of the core functions that we need, like driving leads, like why are we at PRI? Because like if we have a booth here, it's because we want to drive exposure, we want to drive leads, people that don't necessarily buy at the show, but they come after the show and they become customers. In order to do that online, we have to have helpful content. We have to be able to then transfer that into social media and all the channels where our buyers are. We have to be able to have a website that actually performs, that actually drives online sales. And then the other thing we need to stand out and build the trust component, if we're not the market leader, is we have to be able to show that we have ratings and reviews and really happy customers, because like that evidence, that proof point that you, the buyer, are not the guinea pig, but you're buying the most proven product is what actually drives the most confidence in sales. So AI can have a significant acceleration in helping us do all these jobs that frankly sometimes get left for later, and that's what's kind of holding back our sales. The next thing I'd kind of say is that, there's a huge opportunity now if you feel like, oh yeah, I've invested in marketing in the past and it hasn't worked for me. Like first off, that if you're trying to do that in-house by yourself without like a background in that, I totally get it. But now AI is dropping costs 50, 70, 80% in many cases. Like the ROI on marketing is actually going up, which is pretty exciting. So I think there's a good opportunity. Then I do need to give you the disclaimer. AI is really only going to help you after you train it properly on your brand. Because if you just do it out of the box, who here has used AI and been quite disappointed, like impressively disappointed? Yeah. So like we're going to work on how to tune some of that out of the engine. In marketing, and I think it's true because like in different industries, we're still just selling to people, right? So just because I do SaaS and tech, sold to people, right? We're doing motorsports, power sports, sold to people, yet to sell to a robot. So the deal is that what do we need? We need sticky ads, sticky page copy, stuff that actually pulls them in. It needs to be insightful, relevant to them. It needs to be able to generate leads and generate sales, right? And then we have to have that loop that comes back to effective ratings and reviews. Like these are the essentials. We make these assets because it helps us achieve the outcomes we want. We can be seen as a leader in our space, as an authority brand when we have this. We can have high intent lead flow. Basically, our marketing is working. We're actually at this point where now people are starting to look online and have AI recommend products and solutions. Who has actually asked ChatGPT, hey, what would be the right solution for this or that? All right, so we're at about 15, 20% of the room already. It'll be 100% of the room next year. Like as AI starts to ingest and make recommendations, like it's just going to be a new way that people are looking for the best tool. And then finally, like the only purpose of doing marketing, the only purpose of doing business is to make a profit. Like it needs to help us make a profit. And I think there's a huge lever there. So that's the game. Now, let's talk about how marketing comes together. Chuck?
Yeah, so if you look at this Corvette, and again, AI-generated images. Sometimes, like, we get some great stuff out of AI, but if you look at this Corvette in its completed state, right, if you see this car or something like this, right, it looks super cool, but what I want you to think about is the performance of it. Like, the performance in this car isn't about art and how cool it looks. It comes from having the right design and having the right engine, the right manufacturers, the right partners, and putting it all together is a process of assembly, right? And what I want to show you is, I want to show you and have you think about marketing as a process of assembly, right? So you can see here, like, how we think about some of the elements that goes into digital marketing, which involves having the right strategy, and creating the right content and assets from that strategy, and then building wireframes. And the reason that you build good wireframes is so that you can make great pages. And you make these great pages so that you can create the right digital assets to go on social posts and email campaigns. And really, the great news about all of this is AI will draft all of these marketing elements, but it doesn't know how to do that without some very, very important learnings about your business. And so I'm going to pass this over to Kevin in a second to show us what is happening outside of racing. And then, again, it's up to you if you want to adopt this or not. I think that what we want to do is we just want to be able to show you what we've learned and what's possible. And by the end of this presentation, your question, again, is to answer, like, do you want to bring more money to your brand by using AI?
Yep, so First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through three key steps, but I have to do level 0 first. This is a slightly tuned presentation that I gave at the largest marketing conference in the country a couple months ago. But even with them, I needed a level set on how AI works, because I think once you have that understanding of what you're actually dealing with and how it kind of works below the scenes a little bit, you can use it better, right? Because you have a better understanding of it. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how AI actually works. And I would ask you, if you've played with ChatGPT, does ChatGPT work for you, or are you actually working for ChatGPT? Because it's like a little bit of both. The first thing you need to understand is AI is not actually chatting with you. That is an illusion. When you put in a request and it chats back the answer, like it had the full response. It could have just dropped it on you. But what it does is it uses this chat interface because they, as the makers of the product, understand that the likelihood of it fully answering your question and giving you what you actually wanted is pretty low. So it's giving you this chat interface so you feel comfortable giving it more knowledge and more knowledge and more knowledge. And inside of that, they're actually utilizing this interface for you to help train the model of when someone asks for this, they're actually asking for this. And it's requiring this back and forth from you to help build the context, because they also figured out pretty early on that the users don't know how to give AI what it needs to do a good job. So it extracts it from you in a chat. But the problem that I have with that personally is it's burning up your day, right? And I don't want to be paying people to have their day burned up not knowing how to use AI effectively. I don't want to sit there and chat with it all day. I got stuff to do. So that's the deal. The second thing is like how AI works when it even receives your request. Let's say you put in a better one to where you don't have to give it so much information. What it's basically doing is it's taking your inputs that you gave it, and it's predicting or guessing what the next pattern of words would be that will satisfy you. So you basically say, what are the steps to making a sandwich? It's going to pick a sandwich, and it's going to give you the steps, right? And if you didn't say what kind of sandwich, like you're going to get a less desirable response, because maybe you don't like peanut butter and jelly. I do. Crunchy only. All right, but the deal is like inside of this, who is like given it a request, it's guessed an answer, and it's been totally off the mark. So off the mark that you wonder whether AI has a chance of being even useful. That's kind of like the AI slop scenario, right? So like what's happening in the scenario where you ask it for something and it gives you a completely ridiculous answer that only demonstrates everything it doesn't know, is it just didn't have a good pattern to match and extract and bring you back the right answer, so it's guessing. So when we started thinking about AI about 19 months ago, and I will be honest with you, we just struggled with it for about the first 12 months. I'm like, maybe it's not the tool that everyone is hyping up. The question that we kind of got to is, well, how do we make it stop guessing and make it an amazing guessing machine if it's going to be guessing at all? And the answer is we got to give it all the answers, right? If we can just give it all the answers and don't make it look or guess the context, so basically pre-configure this thing to understand what I'm looking for, understand me, understand my buyer, understand what I'm looking for, it really is the game changer. We spent about 12 months to learn that lesson. There you go. All right, so, and then the companies scaling with AI now get this, and they're doing basically just two things. The two things is the front lever of all their marketing, and they're focusing on giving AI how to give it brand context, which we're going to go through today, how to teach it about your brand or about your buyer, or about your client. And second, to teach it the process that you want it to go through for whatever task you're giving it. So if one person was writing press releases, it's like, what is the process of writing a good press release, and what are good examples? Another person was talking about doing e-commerce. What's some world-class product listings and how it can replicate it once you trained it on your brand? And when you have those two components, now you can deploy AI as actually a powerful tool, and the nail guns are actually going the right direction. So that's the deal. And without deep context, AI is totally guessing, and you're going to either be catching and correcting all the issues, or like me, cursing at the AI for how bad of a job it's doing, all right? So, which absolutely happens, and I do think that all caps helps. I'm pretty sure. So that's the deal. And for context, I just need to make it real for you, and I think it'll just be easiest when we think about context if I show you, because most people do not understand what I'm talking about. So let's just go through that. This is a good time to put on the tarp because the fire hose is about to come open, okay? So we're going to talk about training AI with deep context. Let's go ahead and kick it off. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So it is not the endless chat. It's not starting a chat at 1 o'clock, chasing your tail around with AI for 3 o'clock going, does this tool even help me? What even happened this afternoon? It's not that. Let's skip over that. Let's not do that. What we did for months to figure this out is we just worked on how to make AI run our own marketing inside of my company, which luckily over many years of reading all the books and taking all the courses, we figured out how to do this pretty well. And the deal is we've gotten it to now, we made a rule about 4-5 months ago that nothing can be published unless it was made with AI. We're gonna eat our own dog food, good or bad. And the deal is that if we taste it bad, we'll just know how we need to make some better dog food. And so now every single asset that we create within my company so that we can do radical self-experimentation is made with AI. And then depending on what kind of asset it is, an email, social post, 5 minutes to polish it before it can be published. Put a deal. If it's a big sales page, 15 minutes to polish it and publish it. And if that can't be achieved, then our AI must suck. And that's how we've developed this product. And what we've basically figured out is there's 5 factors that if we get them right, it does a really good job. We're now deploying this in clients, mostly in the SaaS and tech space, and now starting to drive demos in the racing space. It's the same concept because we're just selling to humans. Here's the 5 factors we need. I really like alliteration. So there's 5 Fs. Facts, feelings, frame, flavor, flows. If you can kind of get that, it'll work. Let's go through facts. And the first facts that AI needs in order to represent you and your company well is it needs to understand your industry. You might think that it does. It does not in the way that you do. Does that make sense? So like, what are the trends? What are the key brands? What are the key roles? What are the key shifts? What are the key products in your space? If you don't tell it any of that, it's not going to represent you well. Secondly, your company, your company, how it fits in the space, your solutions, your methods for how you built those solutions different than your competitors, the reasons why someone would buy it, right? In the proof points that you have of how it's performing. If you don't give that to AI, it has no context to represent you well at all. So like, on one hand, you could quickly demo AI and be like, oh, it sucks. Well, maybe we suck at giving it what it needs. Does that make sense? So that's the deal. Here's a couple of the industry facts. Who are the market leaders? What are their sales methods? What are the most successful marketing campaigns? What are the most popular products? What are the best practices in our space, right? What's believed by our buyer but actually out of date? What are the common industry words that we should use? And what's the jargon that we should not use? Because anybody played, once you say you're in a racing space, it's like, step into pit lane and we're gonna rev up your operations. And it's like, so we gotta basically say, like, we're never gonna use this stuff ever. You're going to get fired for this. And you can set up that rule and it will follow it from ever forth. But if you don't do it, you're just going to be dealing with it or cursing at it endlessly. Does that make sense? All right, cool. But that's just your industry. That has nothing to do with you yet, right? So now let's go into what it needs to know about your brand, right? So obviously who's your brand and what's the company name and what kind of solutions you have. But now what's the unique sales proposition for each of your solutions? If you can't articulate to AI like why your buyer should buy your product, then it's not going to represent you well in marketing. It's going to radically underperform. Okay? And it needs to know the solution benefits, how it's different than the alternatives, what the outcome they should expect, what the configuration steps are, if they need to set up, configure it, tune it to work in their application. Like, you have to be able to give this information to AI. But when you do, shockingly, it actually does an amazing job of what we talked about, pattern matching and bringing in the patterns that you gave it when you ask for it later. It becomes a super effective marketing tool. All right. So whether you're putting that in a page, an email, a social post, whether we're getting notes for a podcast, like, it can recall all of this actually super effectively because it doesn't forget. It's able to retrieve that out of a file at will. Okay. So that's kind of the deal on the fact side. How are we doing so far? Is it overwhelmed? Like, no one has passed out, so that's good. All right. The deal I think we should remember, though, is that's not really what marketing is about. Chuck?
What I want you guys to remember is I've had this conversation several times, right? Especially with team owners. Like, they seem to be the one, maybe it's their name on the door, but your marketing, the website, your marketing messages, it's not about you. It is about your buyer. And if you keep that in mind, you need to be able to show your target audience how your product and service gets them to their desired result. Like, what are they trying to do? So in short, it is all about them. That's what I want everybody to remember.
So what I always say to my clients, you you might be able to perceive that I have a fairly forward style, but it's like, here's what's going to happen. You're hiring me to actually arm wrestle you and disagree with you and show you how, like, I'm not here to give you what you want. I'm here to give your buyer what they want. And if I can get your buyer what they want, then everything's going to perform and you'll like me, and that's how I'm going to get there. And I think sometimes we forget that, and we kind of get a little bit of an ego and try to make ourselves look good, but our very best marketing is just serving our buyer, and we're thinking in advance of what they need to feel comfortable with their purchase. And if you don't give in AI on what makes buyers comfortable and ready to buy, then it's still going to underperform for you. It's still going to do a crappy job. Okay, so let's go through a little bit of that. Let's think about buyer personas and how that kind of lines up. One of the things that I think we should do is just give an example that we can all relate to. Chuck?
Yeah, so who can identify with weekend warrior will? It should be probably a lot of your guys' target customer. And so this could be a racer in any form. It could be drag racing, it could be dirt late models, it could be bikes, it doesn't matter, right? But weekend warrior will as a persona is a racer. The person lives to be a racer, they love their friends to know that they race, and typically it's a small operation. It's got a very hands-on approach, but then they dive deep enough on the technical side to use shock dynos, to use data acquisition. They're very invested in their racing, and their trusted sources are often the people that are winning that weekend. Like, how many people do you know that are just looking to the, like, what kind of brakes do they have? What's their suspension setup? They're looking to the people that won. But then the other thing that we've seen happen over the years is a lot of people are turning to Google. A lot of people are turning to search, and now people are using AI and they're asking AI for answers in race setup and things that. And so what does that mean to you when they're using AI to search? So as I said this before, right, your brand needs to show how you help them get their desired result. How do you help them win in what they're trying to do? So when you think about your buyer persona, I ask people this all the time. Anybody, when do you think people buy? Kevin, do you know when people buy?
I'm really sure when people buy, and it's our job to make sure that we all are putting it into our marketing.
I guess when they feel good.
Nailed it.
That's right.
Nailed it. Mic drop.
Yeah,
Good job.
Nobody ever gets that right.
It's a feeling. People buy when they feel like buying,
yeah.
and people don't buy when you haven't given them that feeling. That's what sales and marketing is. That's what good salesmanship is understanding where the buyer is and painting them to a bridge where they feel comfortable making a purchase.
Yeah, and I think if you think about even just the simple fact of buying anything, buying a car, right? There are things that get you excited to buy a car. Oh, it's going to be shiny. I'm going to look good driving it. It's going to have that new car smell. Everybody loves that, right? But then they start to think about it a little bit more, and they're like, oh, I don't have a car payment. Now I might have a car payment. It could get scratched. It's going to cost more money. And so they start to think about these things that maybe push them away. So good marketing not only takes care of all those emotional things that get you excited, but it also has to take care of the anxieties, the habits, the things that they're doing today that might push them away from that. So let me show you how we think about this a little bit more. So it is not just surface level. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we're not just saying, hey, I sell to weekend warriors, or like thinks he can do anything on a mountain bike, Kevin, like as a target buyer, right? And weekend warrior Will is a great buyer because he spends a lot of money, but we need to think about how he makes his decisions, right? And if we give a little bit of that to AI, it's going to make us, one, personally more effective marketers, but two, AI will be able to draft it up like way wizard, whiz bang better.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
So this is what we've established, right? That it's more than just surface level. This is people buy when they feel like it. So you look at all the psychographics that go into that. So what specific doubts do they have, or concerns, or fears when they're investing money? They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to mess this up. So your solution, whatever that is, it must address all of these areas so that you can build that trust, and so that when they make their decision that they're ready to buy, that they identify with your brand narrative. And that's why this isn't surface level. So I would even ask you to give an example of when you bought something and how you thought about it.
So I made this graphic that is my own, okay, and that is my amazing graphical abilities, and it's because the buyer is bruised and confused, right? They've been burned, they've bought stuff, they've been disappointed, and they don't want to make that mistake again. So when they make future purchases, they're trying to make sure they're super confident that it's going to work. So a good application, like for me, being a big mountain bike fan, is I was recently buying a downhill bike, and I'm like, okay, well, the problem is like on my other mountain bikes, the biggest deal I have is like I feel like I'm never completely comfortable, and I'm always struggling with the suspension setup. So I'm like, I chose to make the choice of what mountain bike I was buying just about what suspension I felt like I, as a quite amateur in the tool shop department, I would be able to configure and actually feel comfortable as I go to different parks, right? And ultimately, it's like there's one manufacturer who had all the setup and shows like, here's how you can have a more supple setup. Here's how you can get more feedback. Here's how you can have, here's how you can push through the stroke and set the way that I wanted to set up. And so I bought a bike with Olin suspension because like I knew that I could get that done. And so like that's what won my purchase, is I had the confidence that that product was going to give me the outcome that I wanted. And the way they did that is they published content about how to set up around all of my concerns for my purchase, right? The huge part of downhill is being comfortable leaving the brakes off.
But let's think about this in terms of like all the work that we're talking about that's going into this, because we're suggesting you have to go deep. This is not surface level, right? So Kevin, this is your slide when you think about this, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, and this is probably about the right part of the session where like, crap, am I in the right thing? Because Kevin doesn't realize I already have a job. Like how am I going to get all this done? So I totally do understand. But at the same time, it doesn't change what the practices are that's going to get you the result that you need. So I'm going to still bring you the right medicine, right? I'm not going to bring you crappy medicine that's not going to actually work. So this does take some time, and we've been working through the process, and we actually made an AI tool for it. But the other thing is that, you know, we've been working through this process to make it where you can train AI like a lot faster than you think. It really goes through like an interview process. But the thing that we've figured out by giving AI more detail up front, right, is the path to having it not derailing for you and being constantly disappointing. It's what makes it a useful tool. And then, to be honest with you, I struggled for about 3 months like having clients adopt it, and what I found is like they were just like unsure. They're like, I don't want to just like get in here and put stuff into the document that may not be right, and I don't know that it's going to work for me, and I don't know that I'm going to get the result, and I know this is going to take 2 or 3 hours of my time. So we stopped doing that crap because it wasn't working at all, and we gave them a Chuck. And now what happens is we just let Chuck do interviews with the owner or the product leads to understand the information that we need, and Chuck extracts from them the answers to all the questions, and he's just curious, and he gets racing, and he understands buyers, and he can answer about the doubts and likely objections that a buyer would have, and we just basically take the transcript of the interview and give that to AI. And it's like 900% easier for the brand that's new to it. And the thing is like it's not an optionable step. Like you have to do this, because otherwise it's just going to represent you poorly, and we're going to look bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be an interview with me, but the point is the interview just makes it easier to unearth all of this information, right? So whatever it is, the message is again, go deep in your brand.
Right, and when people watch, I'm not trying to like do this move, but maybe a little, but like when people watch me use AI, it's like I have an understanding of that it has no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give it a good instruction of what it's doing, why it's doing it, how I want it to think about it, who it's for, and what a good result looks like. And I'll just turn on my voice memo and I'll give all of that like as an interview, as if I'm training it to do this job. And then I hit go, and then shockingly I get a different result than my sister does when she tries to use AI, right? And there's this last thing that AI really has to get that probably everyone is missing. If you took one thing out of here, it's like you need to teach it about how you sell. And I call that framing, because that's like a technical word. It's like how you're positioned in the marketplace, how you position your brand, and why you fit as the product that's right for them. So that's your positioning of why should they change? Why should they pick you? What kind of results do you have? What kind of proof do you have of your products and your services? But also, like, how do you actually sell it? What are the words that you use? What are the questions that you ask in order to walk someone through a purchase? And the higher ticket you are, the more expensive stuff you're selling, the more you need to show AI how you sell it if you want it to help you with any level of marketing. So at this point, I want to give you like congratulations. You made it through kind of like the hardest part.
But here's the bad news, he's not done yet.
Yeah, we're not done. Yeah, as I said, that's the bad news part. Yeah, so that's the wink. Like, okay, it's partly the good news. All right, but the deal is that if there was a little bit of a fire hose so far, I can kind of summarize it into this. You just need to slow down a minute, and you need to train AI better. You need to think about training AI better than you would train a new person. Okay? So, because that person's going to come in with some context, but AI doesn't. It really doesn't. And if you leave it to invent that context, it's going to suck. It's going to suck. Okay? So that's the deal. There is a spot where my customers get really snagged. And they're like, okay, well, it's giving the right information, but I don't like the way it says it. I don't like the way it's talking. It's not saying it the way I would say it. Chuck, what's the answer to that?
Yeah, so we've got a saying in our office, like, just bring us 6-inch putts, right? And so AI can bring you 90% there, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to come in here and stand up here and make you think like AI is the magic bullet and is going to completely do everything. But it will do about 90% once you train it. And then you still need, like, to be involved for at least 10%, right? And that's like actually putting the ball into the cup, right? I'm not much of a golfer, but what I mean is that you need to dedicate 10% to just fact check it and make sure it sounds like your brand. Like it must sound like your brand voice.
Yeah, so I will say heading into late 2025, heading into 2026, I'm still spending those time changing the headline to suit me. It's pretty close. It's in the ballpark, but I'm spending a few minutes on that. I spend a few minutes on a few key sections of pages that I'm still putting my human fingerprints on, and I don't think we're going to get out of that anytime soon. So I think that you're going to recognize some of that, and then what we do is we just set up rules. Instead of ever saying it like this, say it like this. And by doing that, you're going to just consistently get a better result. I do want to kind of give you the unveil of marketing agencies, since we both run one. Everything after you extract the core insights from your client is actually derivative content. Meaning, all we're doing is taking what marketing agencies always did, which is learn about the brand, learn about the buyer, learn about the products, learn about the sales process, and then go and make the website pages, sales pages, advertising, email nurturing, social posts that go with it. So what are we doing in our head? We're taking the core insights and then applying them to creating the assets that we know how to make. This is all we're really doing with AI. Like, agencies already do this. It's literally their business. They know how to make this stuff, but they just need to understand it for your brand and your brand and your brand, right? And then now what's happening is like there's going to be two types of firms in the future. The ones that are using AI for this and they're reaping all the gains, and the ones that are using AI for this but giving you the gains and like just literally showing you, we're making this with AI, we're doing this way faster and way cheaper. Yes, you're still going to have to take it that final 6-inch putt, right, to style it up. But now you can go way faster, and we're giving that efficiency to you. I think AI agencies, whether you build one in-house in your company, if it's big enough, or you're just leveraging one to go a lot faster, is going to be the model of the future. So that's why we kind of came here and said, this is where it's going inside of all industries, and might as well be racing to. Long-form content, your key pages, sales pages, rank pages, all that kind of stuff, your advertising, social, email nurturing, sales outreach, AI assistants now popping up for support. All of that comes from core insights. I have a company that works in the HubSpot ecosystem, we have a website theme builder. As a support agent, what do? We load up all the sales calls, all the support tickets, so it can answer questions because it's seen them before. I jumped on it, I don't know, a month ago, and I said, explain to me why I wouldn't buy your product. It was baller, because what it did is it actually pulled a sales call that I was on, and I explained to them in that particular call some reasons why it may not work for them in their instance. And I was just helping them make a good decision. I don't know if it's a good fit. And it actually pulled that from a sales call that I was on like a year and a half before, and explained like these are some of the circumstances that it's not really made for. And then also on a different call, we explained what was not included. Like, here's some of the things that's not included when you buy it. And it pulled that out too. And it's like, that's the opportunity. I was like, it's very effective at selling why they should not buy it, but it was completely accurate and it came from a good source, is no longer guessing, and that's really the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to say. Kevin uses a lot of words. Sometimes he uses big words.
And they come fast. They come fast too.
And when he put derivative in the slide, I'm like, that takes me back to calculus. I'm like, so here's what I want. Let me just summarize this. Like, if you're not doing these marketing things, like, if you're not doing those now is when it makes sense to start. Like, start using AI, and hopefully you can use some of the things that we're talking about here, right? So.
I would say that just the big thing I want you to also get is it's not just chatting with AI and doing that loop of unsatisfied response to try to get something half quasi-usable while you question whether that was a waste of your time. Please don't do it that way. Think about it as more of the interview way. How do I feed it everything it needs to know as if I'm training a new employee? The best way to do that is to talk to it, because you can just get words out faster. I think that's why I like the AI. I can keep up with my rate of speech. But the deal is like, when you do that interview and it's being recorded and it can lend on that in the future, you're adding that to your knowledge base. That, I feel like I'm building business assets with that. But if I'm just building it with AI, I just feel like I'm just wasting my time in endless chats if I'm doing it the manual way. So that's the deal. I am curious, for those that are running a business, running ops for a business, marketing inside of a business, who would rather get interviewed and train AI that never sleeps and never asks for a raise one time, but like thoroughly get interviewed, if not interrogated, about your brand and your buyer and what you're selling, right? Rather than iterate for hours with ChatGPT, every day or every week. Who would understand that that would actually be a business asset process? Like, this is the new normal. This is the way that companies are going to market in 2026. It's like we need to build our core insights first, and all marketing comes from that. And that applies to every industry, because like, there's this new tool in town, and it's actually quite affordable, and that's the deal. And I do want to show you that's the heaven if you do. Here's the hell if you don't. I think there's some scary AI costs if you're using it in a poor fashion. If you had 2 people on your team that were spending 2 hours a day using ChatGPT, and you're paying them roughly $50 an hour because they're high-level people, right? That's $200 a day, $1,000 a week, $4,000 a month to use untrained AI for you. Like, please do not pay people to ChatGPT for you. Not your employees, not your freelancers, not your agencies. That's not going to be effective for your business. What I am talking about is giving it the context so it can actually make these assets for you. And it's totally working, and we're deploying it in our clients. And it's pretty cool because we're able to bring higher ROI than ever after we set up this machine. It's just like, you can't just assemble a Corvette. You had to spend a little time thinking about the components that were going to go into it, give it good ingredients, and all of a sudden you can then assemble a good outcome. Where do we stand? Where are we at now?
Well, why don't we talk about AI being the
Yeah, unexpected benefit, very fun. Probably like the $500,000 this year unexpected benefit, super fun, thinking that's going to triple next year, which is, now that I've trained AI on my brand, when people go to ChatGPT and ask it about my brand, it's giving all sorts of freaking great answers. And now all of a sudden, when people set a meeting in my company, we say, how did you hear about us? Our number 4 source is AI itself. So like, I asked AI about it, and it said I should talk to you. So I booked a call. I'm like, baller, right? And my guess is that it will go from number 4. It went from never heard before to number 4 this year. My guess is it'll be number 2 next year, just based on Q4 trajectory. So that's the deal. And I think that you're going to realize is that your buyers are going to start asking AI about, well, what are the best providers? What should I use for this setup? How can I get that figured out? And if you're spending the time giving those insights to AI, it's going to recall them and deliver it as an answer. So there's a huge benefit there. Okay, we are early in this, just on this particular note, but why not get in the game? Okay. One thing still missing.
Yeah, one thing still missing.
Yep. Just because you told it everything about your brand, it doesn't necessarily tell you about how it's going to do the job that you need it to be done. I was talking to one gentleman early on about, he's in the PR space and he's making press releases. Well, if you don't train AI what a good press release is and what a bad press release is, just because you trained it on who you're making a press release about doesn't mean it can make a baller press release. Right? Like, you're going to find it. But if you can give it, hey, here are like 10 world-class press releases and what makes them good. Now all of a sudden, and here's who we're making a press release for, and here's the basic hook I want you to go with. It's going to draft it. It's going to draft it like an employee would. And I think you're going to realize, holy crap, I'm in another gear of business now. Okay? So that's kind of the deal. Hopefully the PR example works for at least one person in the room, but hopefully you can kind of see how you would apply that to your business, right? Inside of this, the 5th one is the flows. The flows is like, what's the workflow? So what's the workflow for a PR, like a press release, and what's the workflow for a social post, or if you have an email newsletter, or if you're just following up on people who had requested a quote or an estimate but never bought, what does that follow-up look like? If you can just give it 1 or 2 examples, now you have told it about your brand and told it about its task, and it can go do it. Does that make sense? Check where we're at now. Yes. If you get to here, which is not that hard, it's really just some interviews where a Kevin or a Chuck or just you are being more, like we're being curious and we're extracting info about your brand. I like to load sales calls. If you have sales calls or a support department, just get the transcript, load it in there. It'll make it an amazing answer genie. So it can help with support. You can have an assistant on your website that actually answers questions really good, but it's not a great marketer yet. So now we're just going to walk through how to give it the workflows to be a great marketer. To do great marketing, every human, like I employ dozens of people, they need a great process. They can't just like whiz bang it out. It's not just like you only live once, we're just gonna do it however we want. Like if we want to do this at a high level for real brands, we have to follow a process. Humans need a process, and just like that, AI needs a process. And what happens is if you'll show it the process that you want it to follow, it will follow that in a very systematic, repeatable, doesn't even call in sick, doesn't complain way, and it'll help you get the result that you want. I'm gonna show you the 3 steps to going pro for making a process assembly line. The first one is just validating that AI can do it. I was in my hotel room a couple nights ago, validating that AI could take this query spreadsheet and parse it into categories and that applied to my brand, that I could use it. But first I did just use ChatGPT, load up the file, and make sure that it could give me what I wanted. Once I knew it could give me what I wanted, now I want to start to automate that. But the easiest way to figure out if it can even help you at all is to give it the file. I uploaded a client's catalog this morning to see if it could even read it. Because if it could take that and parse that out into a spreadsheet, they wouldn't have to recreate it. It could not read it, not at the level that I wanted. So that in use, but I could figure out the use case wasn't going to work in 5 seconds. Okay, so the first step is just see if it can read the file that you're looking to do, even try to help you. The second level is where you give it just 1 step. Kind of like if you had a new intern, you would just give them 1 step of the process. The step that I tend to start out with, if I'm training AI to do something, is how to review it, how to know if it was good or bad. So like if I wanted to make a sales page, I would give it a sales page and just say, is this sales page good or bad? And I would give it the rules of knowing how to score it. Because if it knows how to score it, it now has the rules to know how to make it. Does that make sense? So like I tend to start in a review process. And if I can make it do the outline review and the QC review, now I can give it those rules to start making drafts. The second step of AI is just giving it the tedious work, the part that you hate. So a lot of the work that we have to do that's tedious is before we go make a sales page, we go review everyone else's sales page. Like everyone else's sales page, and we're going to extract every single, why would I reinvent the wheel? If they're doing something really cool, I'm going to adopt it. Thank you, putting that in my bag, and I'm going to apply that in this instance. So I have AI go do all the research for me because it takes hours, right? So what are the best sales pages? What are the best ideas? What's happening in the space that we don't already have in our playbook? And I have it doing that before I'm making any new key asset for an important company because it makes me look smart. And the deal is that it also makes the marketing more effective. So doing the research and the data and then doing the outline based upon all the training I gave it and the best examples that I gave it, having it make the outline for the page, it's hugely time consuming, and AI can do it in 5 seconds with what I gave it. And it's like when it just does those 2 jobs for me, I'm just me, but faster. And that's how you can think about employing AI in your business. When you're there, then you can have it start thinking about creating the drafts. But the real game, the level 3 game, like going really big, is when you just do one more thing, which is you actually train it on each step, and it just runs through the whole thing for you. Chuck, hit me one more slide. And like where we're at for a lot of my company is more in the SaaS space, which trust me, racing is going to be here in like a few months. Where it's like, look, once we understand the brand and we have like the standard, like Chuck does a lot with shopping carts, right? Why won't we just make ultimate, like we're working on like the ultimate sales pages that work the most effectiveness. We interview the client about their products, we plug it in, and it's going to basically run it through the entire process. It's going to research the competitors, select the right page that it needs, create the outline for it, review the outline, ask any questions for where there's any gaps, create the draft, review the draft and score it, and say, here's where it's at. It's scored a 7 out of 10. We need help in these 2 areas. And then when it comes to Chuck's team, he can get a client to an effective page like 5 times faster. Yeah, so that's the game. That's the switching from a hammer to a nail gun. Cool? In order to run this and have that freedom of it going and making this while you're working on other crap, I do got to tell you that there's just no, like, learn from my 12 months of hell, there's no excuse for not training AI on your company first, or it's still guessing. I tried to jump into agent land first, so totally ineffective. It's really about kind of getting that brand context in there. Just like when we onboarded clients the old way, we had to understand their company to represent them well. So Chuck, I kind of geeked out on that, so I'm going to turn geek mode off, let Chuck talk for a second, and talk to them about how we can actually get this done.
Yeah, so again, you don't have to know everything, right? You can just sit down with me and be the subject matter expert in your business. And so I will say this, I tend to enjoy talking about owners and people that head up the marketing and the sales and for their business. So what this could look like is probably a little bit more like that, because we're going to talk for a little bit. So it might run slightly long. It could be a 90-minute interview, but when you think about that, like, if I can get everything out of your business to make AI work for you, how much more valuable is that, right? And so during our talk, I get everything from you so that I can make AI do the work for you. And I think when you look at that...
Yeah. Let's just lay out the options here, right? So it's like 90 minutes a month getting interviewed around your business, around your goals of what you're trying to do, so that AI can go make some really good drafts for you that you will need to spend a few minutes getting into you're going to need to put it into the hole. It's not going to be perfect. Or you can do it the old way, or you can do nothing. Like those are pretty much the 3 options that I can see.
Those are the 3 options.
Yeah, those are pretty... Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to try to have more customers come into my business. I mean, that's awesome. Teach me your ways. If you have all the customers that you want, So that's the deal. And then with this, when you have it trained, you can actually step away and leave for lunch knowing the AI is working on doing the researching steps. You don't have to sit there and chat it through it. And I think that's the hugest lever that brands are going to be grabbing a hold of and deploying in the business. So that's the deal. Where it's working in my business is we're doing the interviews, 90 minutes, once a month, and then some follow-up questions take 10, 15 minutes to answer, like the stuff I forgot to ask. And from that, I spent like a year showing AI our very best results, and frankly, even some killer sales pages that I didn't even make myself, to train it on what works, and it's able to use that to make the most effective sales pages and the lead gen campaigns and advertisements and social posts and email campaigns, because that's all derivative from that core interview. So that's the deal. A question I get is, do you think AI is going to replace people? Is that the goal of AI? I'm going to give you a strong no. It's like giving your people like the Iron Man suit. They can just step into it and be way more effective. Does that make sense? So like multiplying the productivity of a person instead of trying to replace the person. And curious if y'all have been like me in my business since COVID, do you find it to be harder? Is it getting easier or harder to hire, train, manage, motivate, and retain employees the last 5 years? Is it getting easier or harder? I'm in the harder camp. Anybody in that space? Yeah, harder. So where I'm at is like, oh, and by the way, is AI likely to be getting smarter every single year? Is that likely the trend that we're on? And it's like, what's cool is like we've had a few models come out since I started deploying this, and all of a sudden the model's just even better. It's like I didn't do jack. Just I applied it to a smarter model, So there's an opportunity to like invest in the right people that are bought in. They are a high capacity person. They don't have to be managed and motivated so much because they're a little bit operating humans, and then give them the best tools that are growing and improving every year. And then what's going to basically happen is like, it's kind of like a net win. If you can 3x somebody's productivity, somebody who actually is a go-getter by themselves, without having to 3x the size of your team, well, now you're giving customers a better experience that drove you more sales, your company's doing better, and you're doing it more profitably, which if you want to, you can share some of the rewards back to that team member who's running it. Like, I really think it's a net all the way around because we're just using better tools. So now you got 3 choices. I am putting my sales hat on for like 90 seconds. Is that okay? All right, cool. So sales hat on. You got 3 choices. If you want to grow, I would want to suggest that doing nothing should not be a viable option, so we'll take that one off. We've got 3 left. Chuck, what do you think about doing AI the dumb way? What do you think about that?
I think a lot of people swear.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it will get you very comfortable with cursing. I mostly curse on the inside and then through my keyboard a little bit to the AI. But that's the deal. And then secondly is having trained AI built for you. Like there's going to be particularly some of Chuck's clients, like because he's dealing at the higher end of motorsports. Like, how do we just get this in-house? How do we get this in the hands of our employees? We have enough of them. We're going to deploy this technology, train it ourselves, run it ourselves. For the more advanced brands, totally viable option. I do think for the brands that are like, that seems like a whole engineering project that I don't have time for, not entirely wrong for smaller companies. It might be better to have the AI run for you and you focus on just giving a good interview, prepare for the interview for 15 minutes and bring your best stuff and then let that run around it. Sales hat's off now, but like that's an opportunity, okay? Will it be perfect? I would like to give you a very quick nope. But then what happens is like it's just kind of the same thing as when you're pouring into a new hire, but one that's not going to leave this time. As you get to explain to them, well, here's what you did wrong. Here's why that's wrong. Here's the fix to what you did here that's not going to work, and why that fix works. And you can give that insight sometimes to a team member that they hear it once. The good ones, yes. And then to AI, it just goes into a rule, so it can follow that rule in the future. Cool. So the feedback loop is super important. That feedback loop just makes the AI smarter for your brand over time. That's kind of like the flywheel effect. That's like the turbocharger. I'm getting a result that I wasn't getting before because I'm taking the past feedback and just dumping it back into the machine. So now what I want to do is kind of move into some practical examples, let you see it, your brand versus your competitors, your strengths, your gaps, what you might want to focus on relevant to your brand. What I would generally suggest is if you want us to deploy some agents we built in advance, you can pull up on your phone and you can just scan the QR code and we'll just deploy some agents in real life. We'll literally kick off a demo, initiate some agents, and they'll do some market research. They're going to bring you like a 6-level report, and you can kind of do that now. If you want to kick that off, what'll happen is, and Chuck, you can kind of hit me over, what did I miss on this?
Yeah, so when you fill this out, it's going to launch these 6 different reports, and then what I'm going to do is I can deliver a demo of how AI can speed up your business. So we've talked to a lot of people, and frankly, most people, they just don't see how AI will be a big difference. It's okay. Kevin showed me too. Like we had to learn, we had to go through this. So if you put in your information on this QR code, the goal of the agents that we've built here is to help you be able to see how AI can accelerate your growth and see it before you spend a single hour or a single dollar on making that happen.
Yeah, we're not trying to make, like AI robot looking cats on a motorcycle. We're trying to like work on like stuff that'll actually drive sales. So we're going to bring like practical business analysis and suggestions, but I think if it's relevant to your business, then it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Now, I did this in September to a room about this size but completely packed, and it actually crashed and didn't work. So oops. And the deal is so like now what's happening is this time we're going to queue those one at a time. So like they're doing like 7 at a time, but it'll queue them so it doesn't break because 100 people, like 300 people hit it all at the same moment. And what's going to happen is all you need to do is just set up, and we'll do like a one-on-one. Well, like for this size room, it's going to be really easy. Mm-hmm. We'll do short little 15-minute one-on-ones, walk you through the report, why that works, how that's relevant. Because I did find that it was still getting over people's heads. We'll understand what you're trying to do in your business, and we'll just show you how well we get started doing it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the deal. If you're interested in that, you can scan the QR code. It's all set up. It should be really easy.
So maybe now tell them like old versus new.
Yes. I think it's going to change how marketing gets done. Before, people were like, I don't know if I want to do marketing. It's going to cost me a lot of money. It's going to take a really long time. Even when hiring an agency, they only make 1 or 2 or 3 things a week for you. Each one of those assets, because you're paying humans, is costing hundreds or thousands of dollars. I understand. I'm the one billing for it. But that's not really the way it's working anymore. Now it's about having a marketing agent see, like, let's get the agents trained and working for us. And let me just invest one time in depth of insights and giving my best social proof. And then let AI run experimentations and iterations on how the sales page could work really quickly. And then all I have to worry about is like a one-time system fee and who's going to operate it. Am I going to have it operated in my company or external? And both ways work. Henry Ford says that he who needs a machine but does not buy it will soon learn that he has paid for it and does not have it. You can invest in that when you feel like the time is right for your business. So in summary, AI doesn't suck. It can appear to suck sometimes, but it doesn't suck. The context we gave it sucks, and we set it up to do a bad job. And the way that we're using it kind of sucks, because we're just sitting here chatting with it all day long instead of being super productive. It can assemble super well, but our job is to actually set up the factory of what it's supposed to assemble and how. I did pull some data, I don't know, a night or two ago. We have access to a lot of data in the racing space, just from, frankly, Chuck spending like a couple decades in it. And the deal is like, we just pulled open some random data. You won't be able to tell what brand it is. I made super sure. But like, they just have gaps. They're just sitting there waiting to print money. One in performance radiators. And I just pulled open how they have over 10,000 searches that they're appearing in, but all on page 2. And they got only 150 clicks. And just spending a little bit of time to build out the insights around these terms is going to move them from page 2 to page 1 and likely yield thousands of dollars. But they have to care to spend a couple of hours to do that thing that up till now they just haven't had time for. Does that make sense? Another one is, my example one I must have deleted. Performance shocks. So here's a company, smaller, only 1,000 searches a month, only 26 clicks, crazy. Why? Because they're on page 2 and a couple page 3s and 4s. But if they spent just a little bit of time to make these pages, because I looked at them, deeper and more insightful and more relevant to the buyer, it's going to move it from page 2 and 3 up to page 1. And it will pretty easily pay for the show, right? Chassis components, same thing, different brand, tons of page 2s. They're in the game, they're just not winning the game. Does that make sense? So if they can spend a little bit of time, take a little bit more insights, go a little bit more in depth, give a little bit more of the answers that people are looking for, Google will see this too, bring it up to page 1, and now you're at the front of the pack again. Do we kind of see the idea of how, if we train AI, it's going to help us do all this stuff for our business, and we get to build this knowledge base and pour into it, and putting that as that first piece is the way we're going to accelerate the business? Does that make sense? That's how we're going to accelerate all of our marketing. Cool. Disclaimer. You need to understand this really good. Even with this, some AI outputs will suck, but I'd also like to say, if we be honest, some human outputs suck too. So that's the deal. With that, feel free to initiate the demo. I know the action takers will do this today. Chuck, do you know how I know this? Yeah, you have no choice, because I'm going to take it down tomorrow. I don't want to do one-on-ones forever, so that's the deal. So we're going to take it down for tomorrow. And then now what I kind of suggest that we do is, let's just take a couple of minutes, and I just want to make AI relevant to your business. It's a little bit hard for us to be like, who's going to be here? What are they going to want to know? I want to make sure that if I can answer a question for you, we came out here, I'm from Florida, it's super cold. Let's make sure that there's a reward for you guys and you get something you can take away. So more than happy to have that convo. With that, that's the end of this presentation. Hopefully it's the beginning of you using AI effectively. And thanks for having us. All right. All right, cool. If you have any questions, come on up. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.